Kick it.
Welcome to This Week in Nickelodeon History, where we are covering the anniversaries of shows that either have premiered or finished their runs between the times of July 25th and July 31st. And this week we're starting out with a massive Nickelodeon show with the Fairly Oddparents, which finished their run 4 years ago on July 26th, 2017. Now, the Fairly Oddparents, I don't need to tell you, is one of Nickelodeon's longest running cartoons. It's been going on since March 30th, 2001, but in fact, Cosmo, Wanda, Timmy, and Vicky have their roots all the way back in the 90s, being a part of Oh Yeah Cartoons, dating back all the way to 1998. They're 23 years old. That's why sometimes it's okay to lump the Fairly Oddparents in with the other Nickelodeon cartoons, because they were all over Oh Yeah Cartoons. There was like 8 or 9 shorts between Oh Yeah Cartoons' run from 1998 to 2001 up until the premiere of their own show. That's longer than I would have ever expected, even based on the fact that at one point they were officially canceled and then brought back after a year and a half long hiatus. But the show, created by Butch Hartman, lasted for 10 seasons and 172 episodes. Now, according to show creator Butch Hartman through his YouTube channels and releasing a lot of information from behind the scenes of the show was canceled multiple times. Almost at the end of every season, there seemed to be a looming cancellation, but then Nickelodeon reversing course after seeing the rising numbers and popularity of the Fairly Oddparents. Now, they tried with merchandise with the Fairly Oddparents in stores. I remember there being a time where there was a push of Fairly Oddparents merchandise alongside SpongeBob, but it was never popular in the merchandise department. Probably the one thing that sold the most, and I'm surprised is still not being sold in stores, is some sort of fishbowl themed with like an actual glass fishbowl, the size of Timmy's, with Cosmo and Wanda in it, and the little castle and whatnot. Like, that's a moneymaker even in 2021. But they weren't a big merchandise seller, but the ratings for the Fairly Oddparents were always strong. So, on our end, the viewers, I don't know if it was in the news much in the animation world, but I don't remember ever hearing of an official cancellation up until 2006, when both the Fairly Oddparents and Jimmy Neutron were coming to an end, pretty much after the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 3. Then maybe that's when I started reading animation news, but that's when I started hearing about both shows being canceled, and their final episodes would air at some point later in 2006, which it did. No Substitute for Crazy on November 25th, 2006. That was it. Goodbye, Fairly Oddparents. But as I mentioned, Nickelodeon reversed course on the Fairly Oddparents, having this wonderful idea of finally giving Cosmo and Wanda a baby, a reason to throw a big special on television, a big ratings grab, and it was 8.81 million viewers tuned in to watch the special Fairly Odd Baby, which saw the arrival of baby Poof and started an entire run of new episodes that included Poof alongside Cosmo, Wanda, and Timmy. For as many people blame Poof for the decline in the Fairly Oddparents, for the amount of episodes I saw during that time, I didn't really see that much of a decline. Poof, at some point, even though he was the center of some episodes, he was more of a background player. Even when he was the center, it was a MacGuffin. It was something for Timmy to do, and it was still about Timmy, Cosmo, and Wanda, really. The times that Cosmo and Wanda would go away, but there would be episodes where that would happen and Timmy would be alone without them and would be stuck with something that, it wasn't out of character. I enjoyed the run. At the end of that run, they kind of capped things off with the Wishology trilogy, and I enjoyed those episodes as well. The next batch of episodes, I can say, are just kind of hit or miss, and then eventually we get through season 8, which was only made up of really like 5 episodes. Timmy's Secret Wish, Invasion of the Dads, When Losers Attack, Meet the Odd Parents. Timmy's Secret Wish is actually a 2-part. So, but then they get the next gimmick for season 9, which is to give Timmy a pet, a magical pet, and now he has Sparky the talking dog. And Sparky yet again was just another background character, just another character to kind of help plots to happen or to be there for comedic relief. To me, I still like Sparky was still not as bad as what we then got in season 10. The crescendo of the Fairly Oddparents, which was the addition of Chloe Carmichael. This is now, I am sure there's a lot of commentators out there who comment on this character because of gender. And I just want to say, as far as that's concerned, it means absolutely nothing to my reasoning for disliking this character. My reasoning for disliking this character, they could be male, they could be female, they could be any gender, any pronouns. The fact that a character actually broke up the dynamic that was set from the very first episode of Timmy and his Fairly Odd Godparents, that character, that's something I don't like. It's okay to have new characters that can bounce off plot. It's okay to have new characters to build a town. It's okay to have new characters to build a magical world. I kind of like the daycare idea in Foop. I'm not against that stuff. Build it out. Yeah, branch it out. Butch Hartman has mentioned he likened his world to The Simpsons, of just having this town and these massive amount of characters working around each other. Great, I'm fine with that. Don't mess with the core. The 3. That's what you started with. It's not... If Chloe was introduced as a new character for Timmy to be with in class and could bounce off with, she could have had her own godparents. Like, that's kind of a cool idea, where a new kid comes into the classroom and they have a fairy godparent. Now there's a new god kid in town, and not only that, they're in Timmy's classroom. Oh my goodness, what could happen? Right there, boom. Still something new, still something to build off of. New plot devices you can build off of, a new character you can follow and center on. You can include episodes that go over their home life and whatnot now that they have a godparent, and we can see through that window. But it doesn't break up the dynamic, and the fact that they did that is a massive negative for me. And just the lower quality animation that came across in season 10 does not help. Like, if they could have continued the trajectory of beautiful animation they were getting with the Fairly Oddparents through season 10, there could be some nuggets there of some real gold. But once the animation changes, there's like very few redeemable moments, except for, there's always still gold in comedy. But anyway, the Fairly Oddparents has ended, but still lives on, is still being made into a live-action spin-off on Paramount Plus, which is not remaking. Apparently, Timmy will appear at some point, but he's older and still has his Cosmo and Wanda, and is going to be lending them to new characters, so we can just still get some sort of Cosmo and Wanda comedy with new human characters. We'll see how it goes, but I'm glad that Paramount is actually, paying attention to the Fairly Oddparents a little bit more and seeing that there's some worth here. There are fans for this property, so, but let's face it, we're fans of the classic stuff. If Paramount Plus really wants to cash in on the Fairly Oddparents, they should do what HBO is doing with Adventure Time, and they should be doing that with Danny Phantom and the Fairly Oddparents. Give us movies. Take Chloe out of the picture. Just go to Timmy, Cosmo, and Wanda and give us a series of movies on Paramount Plus. That's going to get the attention of the fans. Trust me. I'm winking at you, Paramount Plus. 5 years ago, on July 29th, 2016, Sanjay and Craig finished its run on Nickelodeon. Created by Jim and James Dershberger, ran for 3 seasons and 60 episodes. That's 114 segments. And might I say, there was a couple months time while I had Nickelodeon still when I still had cable and had access to live Nickelodeon, where I had it in the background many times of nights doing art on the computer or painting and whatnot. I found that I liked a bit of Sanjay and Craig. I enjoyed what I saw. It was a Nicktoon that I attached to. So when I tell you that there was a time that I stopped watching Nickelodeon, this was before this. At this point, this was like, I think when I watched Sanjay and Craig, might have been on the Nicktoons network that I would throw on in the background because they would air a lot of older Nicktoons. And maybe I caught Sanjay and Craig there, but there was definitely a couple months where I actually watched the episodes of Sanjay and Craig that were on, and they made me laugh. And I guess that current people online, I guess there's a lot of more negativity on this show than I guess I was shocked at. I don't know. Look, I'm not taking this too seriously. I thought that this was a perfect way to get just more representation also on television. Both Sanjay and Craig are just wonderful characters. They're just full of positivity, and they're just goofy kids having a great time. I loved seeing it. They love to annoy their neighbor, Mr. Nudeman, voiced by Tony Hale, which, hey, I'll take Mr. Nudeman any day over Chaz Finster on the newest Rugrats. I'm sorry, Tony. My goodness. Mr. Nudeman, though, was a fantastic character. It was just hey, here, I'll take the classic neighbor you get to annoy all day. Hey, Tough Lips, their action hero star, like that thing was funny. There was a certain level of humor with this show that I think you had to have. If you enjoy fart jokes, Sanjay and Craig is there for you to check it out. If you don't enjoy fart humor, if you've never laughed at a fart in your life, I don't know why you're into Nickelodeon, but if you are that person and you're into Nickelodeon, hey, maybe Sanjay and Craig's not for you. We can move on. It's all right, but just laugh at a fart once in a while. It's okay. It's just let your guard down. It's all right. 6 years ago, on July 30th, 2015, the show Every Which Way finished its run on Nickelodeon, created by Mariela Romero and Katharina Leboudoir. The show ran for 4 seasons and 85 episodes. 7 years ago, on July 26th, 2014, Henry Danger started its run on Nickelodeon. Created by Dan Schneider and Dana Olson, the show ran for 5 seasons and 121 episodes. It's one of Nickelodeon's most successful live-action shows ever. And to think that at the same time, Nickelodeon had 2 successful superhero sitcoms running at the same time that included a crossover, but the fact that they were able to do that says wonders about, I guess, the superhero genre and just people's consumption of it. But both shows, I guess, were able to stand on their own footing. Between the two, I've seen more of Henry Danger through clips online, and when I was teaching, it was very hot on television, so students would show me clips through Nickelodeon's YouTube channel and whatnot of different villains, and I got to know some of the characters' names, like, Captain Man and Schwaz and the toddler, Jeff, the guy that just is like the worst villain ever, but I absolutely, like, he reminds me a bit of like a young John DiMaggio. Like, I feel like if he got aged up a bit in the show, John DiMaggio would be perfect for Jeff. So I'm familiar with it, and it was adorable for kids. It was a great little superhero show, and it's still technically on to this day when Danger Force started its run right in 2020. And it's still running on Nickelodeon. It's still on its first season, still its first 26 episodes, but I have no doubt that they're going to continue this brand moving forward. Cooper Barnes as Captain Man seems like a character that, is it working without Henry there? I think it is. So are the other characters expendable? Can you swap them out for other kid characters and keep this moving forward for a decade or so? I think you can do that. Does Cooper Barnes want to do that? I don't know. Maybe he does. But, of course, Danger Force is now being headed by Christopher J. Nowak, who is now being the head credited above Schneider and Olsen, although they have to take credit for obviously creating most of the characters that appear on the show, or a lot of the villains and whatnot. I don't know, honestly, in Danger Force how much they use of the older villains. I know they've brought back a few by just obviously in various research of this show and whatnot. I know that a few have showed up before, but I don't know if they've just tried creating their own villains for the sake of starting fresh on Danger Force. But as we move on, 8 years ago on July 25th, 2013, the show Big Time Rush finished its run on Nickelodeon. Created by Scott Fellows, it ran for 4 seasons and 74 episodes and follows a boy band, and was Nickelodeon's, I don't know if this is really their first time, trying to get a musical act off of their channel. But Big Time Rush was very successful. I was just telling my coworker the other day that I was actually at a Big Time Rush concert at Six Flags, New England, a few years ago. And what was really funny about it is, at the time, Big Time Rush was really huge. And one of the acts that played before them was LMFAO. And half of the band wasn't even there. I can't tell you which one. I completely forgot. But those songs may have just started hitting the radio before they got big. So it was funny a year later looking back on how big LMFAO got, and then like, oh wow, they opened, they were opening for Big Time Rush at Six Flags. But hey, Big Time Rush is also coming back. That's pretty cool. Coming back for a few concerts, testing the waters to see about a full comeback. I don't know if the show will come back. The level of comedy they had on this show was very juvenile, and just with age, you'd have to age it up a bit. It actually, I don't know what it. I feel like when I think of an adult version of Big Time Rush, Entourage comes to mind for some reason. I don't know why, because I've never really watched Entourage in my life. So if you're a fan of that show and that's a complete left field thought, then I apologize. It must have just been the advertisements and the few scenes I've seen of it, knowing it's an adult comedy, But yeah, Big Time Rush coming back for their concerts. That's pretty cool. There's a lot of fans of their music. Their show, I didn't watch many episodes. I definitely watched the episode that included Patchy the Pirate as a canonical character, which means that Big Time Rush and SpongeBob SquarePants in some way, shape, or form take place in the same universe. That's a thing. Try building that map in your head out of all those shows that's a possibility on. It is a crazy connection hunt to try to do. I'm sure it's been done before. But yeah, hey, if you're a fan of Big Time Rush, I'm glad to hear that they're coming back. If you can get tickets for their concert, I hope you have a wonderful time. Let me know what you think. Is it a show worth checking out, watching the seasons, watching the movie? If it is, tell me about it. Let me know. I'd love to see. And last but not least today, 17 years ago on July 30th, 2004, Rocket Power finished its run on Nickelodeon. Created by Arlene Klasky and Gabar Chupo, this was yet another just a steamroll creation right out of that animation studio. If you look at the 90s Nicktoons lineup, Klasky Chupo, they have to have at least a third or a fourth of the 90s Nick cartoons. They were just cranking them out at like an unbelievable rate, and every show was quality. Rugrats, Ah Real Monsters, The Wild Thornberrys, Rocket Power, As Told by Ginger, All Grown Up. I forgot 6. All Grown Up counts as its own show. 6 shows. Rugrats Preschool Days, we're not going to really talk about, but they are also behind the new revival of Rugrats as well, but lump that in with the original. They were also behind the show Duckman at the same time, which is absolutely crazy that while they were creating this genius children's television on one network, they were also creating genius adult television on the USA Network. If you are of age to watch adult cartoons, it exists. That's all. I'm not telling anybody to watch anything. I am not responsible for anything. But Duckman is quality. That's my opinion. They were also behind a bit of the original run of The Simpsons. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, the original Simpsons animation, like the first few seasons, was done with Fox, but out of the Klasky Chupo factory. But Rocket Power, I loved when it was on the air. In subsequent viewings and in overall perspective, it has fell down in my rankings of Nicktoons over time, but I still love it to pieces. It's beloved to me, but just because I might prefer one Nicktoon over another slightly shouldn't matter to anybody, any of you. It's just weird as time has gone on, as grown up as I've become. I look at a character like Otto Rocket, who relatively up until the end of the show remains a bratty kid. And when you're younger, he's easier to get behind and root for, and like, yeah, go against the establishment. Yeah, go against your father, Raymundo. But when you're older, you start looking at things differently. Raymundo, definitely not the greatest father in the world, but a really cool father. And his boundaries are very easy to stay in. So then you start looking at Otto Rocket going like, man, come on. This is easy stuff. You have a slam dunk life. You shouldn't be screwing up this often and disappointing your father this often. I don't know. Reggie has remained a solid character written throughout. I don't think she's lessened in my eyes. Twister, as much as I liked him as a kid, has gotten a bit annoying to me in the bullying aspect of Sam. It's very heavy-handed, and I think over time, when you start definitely looking at his life, it makes reason for it, and they were not, they understood you kind of have to. It's nice to show the background sometimes. I'm sure they were learning from Helga and Hey Arnold that, you can show the home life, and kids are smart enough to put two and two together. He gets bullied at home, therefore he kind of bullies Sam. But Sam is a great character too. He's remained a wonderful character. Raymundo and Tito have always, they were beloved characters in my eyes. Conroy, who takes over Madtown Skate Park, those adult characters who, don't treat the kids like kids. They kind of treat them on an equal level to a point. He does have to step in at certain points, especially the episode in which he becomes Otto and Twister's teacher is an absolutely wonderful episode. And that conversation he has about, hey, there's got to be a line here. I can be your friend at Madtown Skate Park, but you also have to respect me when you're in my classroom and do my homework and do my work and treat me like I'm your teacher. It's a wonderful episode because, hey, that there could be kids out there in the country dealing with that or could be in that situation. I don't know. But yeah, there's a wonderful talk about world building here. Rocket Power, just like with a lot of the other Klasky Chupo shows, did a wonderful job of ranging out characters for different purposes, characters you didn't have to see in every single episode that they could pluck whenever they needed. They had a wonderful little cast of other kids and adults that could come in and out when they wanted. And hey, look, in that aspect, there is a lot of the show that really holds up, and I would never shy anyone from watching away Rocket Power. Like I said, in my eyes, it really comes down to Otto Rocket over time being like, I can't root behind you anymore because what you're doing I don't agree with. But a lot of the other characters really hold up over the time, and I think Ocean Shores, definitely, if you were going to map out the destination points of Nicktoon places you'd want to visit on a vacation, Ocean Shores, I would not want to be a shoebie on that beach. I'm just telling you, I would want to try to blend in as much as possible. I'm maybe too Caucasian to blend in. I don't have that much of a tan, so maybe it would be obvious that I am a shoebie. So maybe it'd just be all right to just live it out, wear the Crocs out on the beach. I don't even know if Crocs would be acceptable in Ocean Shores or if I would be considered lame. And as far as skateboarding goes, that culture, I don't know if it holds up or Rocket Power could come back in a way with extreme sports, because I don't know how much of that culture has remained or changed over time, or if it's still prevalent. I know that each subculture is still big. I know skateboarding is still massive, but I was big into skateboarding. I was good at really cruising with a skateboard. I loved riding for long periods of time. When it came to tricks and everything, my mind just completely shut off at that point. So I would not do well in Madtown Skate Park, but I love everything about skate parks. I love what Tony Hawk is doing with skate parks over the country. I believe it's the Tony Hawk Foundation. I'm just gonna give that information in the video or podcast description. The Tony Hawk Foundation helps build skate parks in areas that don't necessarily have the funding to build skate parks for kids to be able to have a safe place to skate. I'm behind that 100% of the time, and I feel like just knowing that Tony Hawk was his episode on Rocket Power is probably my favorite episode, just because of the culture at the time, and just Tony Hawk was such a big deal. He was so behind Rocket Power, and it just, since we're talking about that energy, I'm just plugging the Tony Hawk Foundation here, so it just in a backwards way. But just going back to Rocket Power for a second, if you've never seen the show, definitely check it out. Even the beginning episodes are really worth watching through to just get the dynamic and the characters. There is growth over time between these characters and their bond with each other through their adventures of Ocean Shores and beyond. So I think there is worth of just watching the show through. I will say that by the end, if you're expecting Otto to kind of change to a completely different character, not really. I do think Otto at times does show moments of growth, but they're, maybe not up to my snuff. If I'm wrong, you can tell me I'm wrong, and I'll just rewatch Rocket Power again just to double check. But hey, anything from Klasky Chupo is definitely quality on the animation front. And that is this week in Nickelodeon history. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching along. If you are following us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Facebook, any way that you are watching us, if you could share this content to anybody that you think would enjoy it, it would be much appreciated. You can follow us on Instagram at SpongeBob Podcast and on Twitter at I'm Ready Podcast. I'm active on there daily, so check me out on there, and we will see you here next week.
On the Lord Hut, here Nick. On the Lord Hut, here Nick. On the Ricky Ticky Low, while living #1 Nickelodeon.